I'm sorry I've been a bit quiet this past few weeks. I've just had a lot going on in the background, and I'm just basically pacing myself as much as I can to be able to handle the things on my plate in this season. So, anyways, lately I've been noticing something about motherhood that I honestly did not expect. And it's funny how this is not about the responsibilities that comes with that role or the tiredness that comes with you know that role. But so I think it's about how much of myself I actually see in my children. And I don't mean the obvious stuff like maybe the personality traits or the little habits. I mean the deeper things, right? The way they react, the way they process things, the way they express their frustration, the way they sometimes go quiet. I do that a lot sometimes, right? Or even the way they sometimes, need assurance. That's been something that's been on my mind. And sometimes, I can, be watching one of them in a moment and they react in a certain way. And I'm like, oh my God, that feels very familiar, right? Sometimes in a good way and sometimes in a not so good way, right? I think I remember, one day where I had asked my daughter to do some writing exercise. But when, I checked in with her, she wasn't writing. My girl was drawing, right? She was drawing. She's like a, she's like the little artist in our home, and I encourage that a lot. But my girl was drawing, so I repeated myself, and I could already, hear the frustration building up in my own voice. And, when she finally decided to respond, she responded with the same tone, right? The same tone right back at me, right? And I just paused because it wasn't just about her being difficult. I think it was like I was looking at a version of myself, right? A smaller version of myself. And it's just something I've been, paying more attention to. Um, yeah, like, there are moments where, one of them is upset and I feel myself getting overwhelmed, faster than I probably should. Or, there are moments, where they need more patience from me. And I already feel my own patience running very thin, right? And I have nothing else to give. And I find that it's, easy to say, it's the kid, it's the child, it's their fault, right? They're being difficult, or it's just part of parenting. But if I'm really being honest, I think sometimes what I'm reacting to is not just them or what they did. I think there's something else within, right? I think motherhood has a way of, bringing things back to the surface, things that you thought that you are dealt with, right? Those ways of responding, you know, I mean, patterns that you grew up with, emotions that you haven't really had time to sit with in a long time. And, it just suddenly keeps showing up in the way you respond, in your tone, in the way you react, and, I don't know, in the things that get to you more than they probably should, right? And um, I've had to do a lot of introspecting, So at some point, I knew I needed to, actually do something, right? Not just. I mean, it's good to notice, but I mean, what are you doing about it? So, I knew I needed to do something, and I started looking into, parenting books, and honestly, most of them didn't really land for me. But then I came across one that felt really different. It felt, I think the title is called Hunt's Parents Gather. Yeah, or Hunt Gather Parents by, Micheline Doucleff. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it well, but it was an audio book. I got it on Audible, and most times I listen to it when I'm driving, and sometimes my 7-year old we'll be in the car, just quietly, listening along as well. And I didn't really think much of it, but I think there was a day where she told me that I had been more gentle with her, right? And I think she said something along the line of me telling her dad to also go and listen to the book that I was listening to in the car so that he can be more gentle with her. I'm like, ah. Anyways, I mean, it just meant that she noticed, the small little changes that I had been implementing, right? And I probably must have thought, you know, I'm just starting. It's probably going to be invisible, but she noticed, right? And she must have felt something different, right? And I'll be honest about something else. There are, sometimes I'm just overwhelmed, right? Like I mentioned earlier, when I've given them the same instruction more than once or twice, when I'm settling the same type of fights back and forth. And sometimes, a lot of things are just happening right at the same moment, and it could be that finally trying to settle in and have some me time, and these kids are just getting on my nerves, right? And it gets to me, right? I lose my patience sometimes. I yell sometimes, and I know that's a pattern that I didn't want to, bring into my own home. I didn't want it to linger for so long in my home, so I try not to, but honestly, sometimes I still do, and I think what's changed though is I don't just move past it, right? I notice, but I don't just move past it anymore. I reflect on it, and sometimes I go back and I repair it, right? I've had to apologize when I need to because I don't think the goal is to be a perfect parent, right? I don't know if there's anything like a perfect parent, but I don't think the goal is to be a perfect parent. I really don't. I think the goal is to be a parent that is aware, just being aware of my choices, being aware of my reactions, um, and how they actually impact my children, and the atmosphere, not even only them, even the atmosphere around the home, in general. And just being aware enough to see myself clearly. And even in the moments I wish I had handled things a bit more differently, you know, just being aware, right? I'm still learning. I'm still learning, and I can say that, with my little tiny experience with motherhood, I think motherhood has shown me the things that I didn't even know about myself, right? It has shown me things about myself that I genuinely didn't see before. Not just the level of my patience, it has also shown me my limits, right? It has shown me that I actually have so much love to give, and it has also shown me um, what's that word now? It has also shown me the things that trigger me, right? It's constantly showing me areas that need improvement, and it's not always comfortable, but I think it's honest and it's fair, right? I used to think parenting was mostly about raising children, but honestly now I think it's also about being willing to face myself, right? Because at some point, um, your children become like a mirror, the mirror that you look at. You look at them and you see yourself basically, right? And you can either look away right now, or or you can do something with what you're seeing right now. So for me, I'm choosing to do something with what I'm seeing right now. I'm choosing to just make some changes, and it may be just taking baby steps. It may be done in a very imperfect way, right? But I'm choosing to try to just self improve, and hopefully it trickles down to these little ones. Um, that's basically what I'm doing in this season. So if you've ever watched your child do something and you're clearly seeing yourself, right? In them, right? You're not alone. Um, you're not alone in that at all. A lot of us are going through that, and I just feel like we don't talk about it enough. Yeah, that's what I'm sharing today. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to catch you.